Hello, everyone. Welcome to Living Out Loud Wednesdays with Women Empowered. Today is our last topic of this month, still domestic abuse awareness. We have Miss Seaball here to tell us her story.
How y'all doing? What's
We
supposed
are doing good. Do you want to tell us a little bit about your story, Seaball?
Oh dang, I ain't know we're gonna dive right into it.
Right into it.
I can go first because I like to piggyback off of y'all.
We going in. It's your time.
But I have to be totally honest. I mean, that's why I was gonna piggyback off of y'all. Oh wow, y'all dive right into it. Well, they know me as Seaball. My name is Crystal. Yeah, a little bit about my background. I guess we're talking about domestic violence. I would say, a lot of times people think that domestic violence starts off like with just straight physical violence, but it necessarily doesn't start off with physical violence. It can start off going back to your childhood, such as if you were verbally abused, psychologically abused, mentally abused. I thought mine started off as physical abuse, but unbeknownst to me, mine's actually started off as kind of like psychological abuse. And I don't think it was I honestly don't think it was purposely being done, but it started off as psychological abuse, which later on led to tumultuous relationships, how I felt like I was being present in certain relationships. And once I got into high school, I would say that once I got into high school, you are always taught that it's wrong for a person to hit you, but I honestly can't even tell you where I gained this from, but I felt like if a person probably didn't yell at you or act toxic, that they didn't love you like that. And I remember being in high school. And we had a like a kind of like a girl session, and they was telling a story about a young lady up to the guy, come up to the school and stalking her, and he'll start cursing her out, and eventually breaking things, and eventually putting his hands on her. And when they introduced the person that came out was one of the girls that was at our school, and we was expecting that. We expecting this to happen into adulthood. So she was there to let us know that physical abuse in relationships can start as early as high school. In my case, it started in high school, and like such as I would say now the term, a more specific term today, is called being gaslit. I was being gaslit, psychologically abused. Like, oh, if you don't stop talking to these people, I'm going to cut off contact with you. Like friends that I've had for years, I was threatened that if I don't cut off contact with them, or if I don't stop hanging out with them, being seen out in public with them, that the guy that he wasn't going to be with me no more, he's going to break up with me. So it seems like I felt like the nicer I was, the worse it got. So it'll be things such as I'll call him, everything will be going great. And then one day I'll call his house and he'll just block me. He'll just block me. He'll block me for a month, for a couple of months, and he'll keep blocking me. And, at the time, you don't know that's like psychological abuse, but that's where it starts at. So then it creates like this trauma bond. So before I know, I'm reaching out more and more, not knowing that I'm trying to find out, I'm not good enough. I'm not pretty enough. Um, I try to be nicer and nicer. And one minute he'll be like, I don't deserve you. And just like that, he'll turn around and say, you don't deserve me. And then things will go back to going well. And then he'll just block me. So it's hot and cold, hot and cold. So abuse just don't start off as physical. It start off as mental, because a lot of times, like they said, hurt people hurt people. And what they do is they'll pull you in mentally. They'll pull you in mentally first. Um, Such as sometimes they'll isolate you from your friends or your family. And then slowly, for surely, it doesn't automatically start off with a slap or a punch. A lot of times that's what people think that abuse start off as. Is subtle things such as shoving your papers off the table, or slamming a door, or stonewalling you, or icing you out, those type of things. And I remember me and my friend, it used to be a joke. I started telling her, I said, if he'll I said, 1 minute he'll be shoving your paper off the table, next he'll be shoving you down the stairs. And it's true, because a lot of people think that abuse should start off with fighting, and it doesn't. Like I said, it gradually increases. It gradually increases. And that's why when people are like, well, why didn't you leave the situation? You know, like I said, it usually starts off mentally, unless like they're a pimp. I don't know. I don't have any background with that. But it usually starts off mentally, then it gradually increases. In my case, it went from mental abuse to verbal abuse to physical abuse. And it's kind of like training an animal. You know, when you get these animals, when you get these dogs, they don't start off as mean. They eventually train them to be mean. So from being nice, you know, I was being nice and being obedient, I guess, and then it turned to me being angry, mean, violent, and eventually using the same type of the mental abuse and psychological abuse against them. So then now they're like, okay, she's trying to drive me crazy, but I didn't realize that I was doing it back to them as well. It's more of a control thing. You know, like when you start feeling like you're losing control, you start to do things to get people back in line. So it pretty much started from there. Did anybody have any questions so far?
I do. So when you speak on psychological abuse and you speak on it happening to you at a very early age or at a young age, at the time that it was happening to you, was it happening to other people around you? So,
No,
like your friends, your associates?
not that I knew of, because you know when you're kids, you don't speak about that, and you really
Hmm.
don't know about those things. You know, you didn't know about being gaslit at a young age. You know, you didn't know what was going on at people's households. Like, for example, now that we're adults, a lot of people are coming out and talk about how they were molested as children. And when we were kids, didn't nobody come to school and say, hey, I was molested. You know, they may have standoffish, and we may have taken it as, oh, they just don't like us, or they're having a bad day. And they've become standoffish. Then now here is fast forward 20, 30 years later, like, aha, I see why they were, you know, behaving in such a manner. So no, I had no idea that if it was occurring with any of my friends, I did not know. Honestly, I did not figure out what was going on with me until actually recently as a child. So I never was like, oh, you're ugly, you're this and that, you'll never be any good. No, it was none of that. It was just that you can be around an adult, can be having a conversation or saying little subtle things, and you as a kid, you're picking up on it and you're internalizing it, but you're not understanding why you're having anxiety that week or why you're having anxiety in your teenage years. You just know that hey, good evening, Cheryl Rogers. You just know that you something ain't right. You're messed up, but you don't know what it is, and you're not thinking that it's this person that could be very close to you who is slowly gaslighting you, either intentionally or unintentionally.
Did you experience any or see any domestic violence in the home growing up?
Yeah, I did. I did, but it wasn't like it was on TV, but it still was violence. It'd still be enough to traumatize a kid. Yeah, I did. But I honestly, like, witnessing that, people would say that, oh, I seen my mom do this to my dad, or my dad do this to my mom, so that's how I display love. No, I didn't internalize that and think that that's how love was shown.
Right.
But for those particular incidents, I didn't. Actually, it made me more like I can't even explain it. I just know that I didn't feel it was okay for somebody to put their hands on me. I know that. So a lot of times people are like, oh, that's the only example I had of love. No, that's not what triggered me the most, to be totally honest. Because it wasn't that many incidents, even though it only takes one incident, but still that wasn't what really mentally got me. It was the silent abuse that got me, the psychological and mental that really got on me.
You know what's crazy is when I heard you speak on your childhood, I'm sitting here thinking, and I'm like, I started being, if we want to go back to psychological abuse and verbal, and I started being abused in 5th grade. I would go with a boy, you know, you call yourself going with a boy. And in Detroit, I don't know if it was like that around here, but I was going with this boy named, I'll say his name, Juan. And I was in 5th grade. And when I broke up with him to go with somebody else, this boy named Micah, he wanted to fight me. He was waiting for me outside the school. He was like taunting me. He was like, "You don't get to break up with me." He was like, "You belong to me. Like, you ain't about to be going with him." And then all this whole crazy stuff. And then the boy across the street named Lamonte, he's like, "If I can't have her, you can't either." And it was like, he would like throw stuff at me and like push me. And, "Are you gonna break up with him?" And like they really like legit wanted to fight me because we 5th graders. We ain't even grown. So like when you think about it, I'm being pushed and and I'm kind of like, I don't know, scared to break up with somebody. And these little itty bitty kid relationships, are you scared to break up with somebody because they're gonna fight you? They're gonna be waiting for you at the corner. I'm gonna be waiting for you at the corner of Longview. You break up with him. You ain't me and you together. Like, I wonder where he at now. But you know what I mean? That's
You know what? And now that I think about it, like as far as like the physical abuse with like not necessarily in a relationship, I could say it actually went back to grade school. We used to be cadets on the corner. Oh my God, anybody can witness this. It's funny now, but now I think about it's kind of messed up, but that's how it starts though. We call ourselves flirting with an older guy, right? But in our heads, we thought he was 17. We were teenagers, we were young teenagers. In our heads, we thought he was 17. But so then, he'll do things such as like, give me nice compliments and stuff. We exchanged numbers. I was 13. I was 13. I thought he was 17. We exchanged numbers, talk on the phone. He told me how he wanted to take my virginity, how he wanted to make me his wife. He wanted me to have his kids, And so what would happen was he'll walk past our block every day on his way to high school, allegedly. Okay, I'm gonna tell you why I was allegedly. So then it's like we felt like he was avoiding us because all the girls kind of liked him and stuff too. We felt like he was avoiding us, so he started walking towards the other corner. So what we did was we started screaming at him down the street, cussing at him and this and that. Again, this is learned behavior. But at the time, we didn't know. This is stuff that we witnessed. Because how will we know just to be cussing somebody out just because they're not giving us what we want, even though we weren't supposed to be getting what we wanted? But we would start, cussing him out, and he'll stop. Then he'll start returning my phone calls, and then he'll start yelling back. That's why I go down to this corner because y'all ghetto, y'all black and y'all ghetto, right? He said that's why I go to the white girls' corner because the white girls were the one who were cadets at the other corner. So. What happened was one day he came walking through our corner and he shoved each and every one of us while we stood on the corner. He shoved each and every single one of us, and majority of us wasn't going to say anything. That's when it comes to sweeping things under the rug, because now we're thinking like, oh my God, we did a bad thing by cussing him out, and that's what warranted us being pushed. But one of the girls spoke out, so she had one of the girls spoke out, told the principal. So what happened was the principal had brought us into the office and was like, is there something we heard about the incident? And of course here we are, what's it called? Napoleon syndrome. So we're trying to protect him by trying to stay silent on pretty much what he did, because that means that we'll have to tell about what we did. Even though we were minors, we weren't in the wrong. And so she had told us, like, if you don't tell your dad, she said, dad in particular, she said, I'm going to tell them. So I had to tell my dad what happened. He didn't really say anything. He had a blank face. The very next day, everybody's dad was parked at each and every corner waiting for this guy to come. So when the guy made it to the corner, one of the dads hopped out with a long gun. It was like, he had with a big gun. He's like, hey, I heard you like to push on little girls, right? So that's how that happened. But that I'll get back into that. But come to find out, the guy was actually 21 years old. But I'm saying all this to say you know, a lot of times people will protect their abusers because they start thinking about, oh well, maybe I should have came home more time, or maybe I shouldn't have dressed like that, or maybe I shouldn't have said certain things on social media. I'm talking about today's terms. So they'll protect their abusers as well and stay quiet because they feel like whatever type of abuse or treatment that they received, that it was warranted. So yeah, I just want to go back to that, Ebony, while you were talking about grade school. That, like I said, the guy pushed us. He pushed us to the point our heads jerked regardless. He shouldn't have put his hands on us. But we was about to stay silent about it.
But you know what that made me think about from grade school? Remember when it would be like the boy who would push you at the park and they'd be like, you know, he'd like you. That's why he did that. But, you know, the older you get, it's like that's aggression. That's abuse.
Yeah.
That's not how you show someone you like them. But if that's what everyone, again, is sweeping under the rug, that learned behavior,
Yeah.
we don't even realize that we're going after the people who are no good for us because, you know, we think it's cute. You know, that's on the playground. You know, he pushed me and skinned my knee up. You know, he really liked me, girl. Like, what?
Or pushing you or grabbing your, because I was well developed real early. I was probably the most developed girl in my, like, as I got to 5th grade, 6th grade. I'm talking about top and back. I was just well developed, and grabbing you and touching you, like, you know, you think it's cute, but it feels inappropriate.
Yep.
But you be like, stop, and then they don't stop. They just keep doing it anyway. Or like even how like my first kiss was. My first kiss was like forced. I was 11. And y'all got me really you got me really in my thoughts like, dang, this started a long time ago, because I was 11 and I remember I was walking home with this boy named Damien, and we would walk home and he would just grope and grope. And I wasn't even attracted to him. He wasn't even cute to me. And I was just like, stop. But he was like, you know, he would walk like he protected me, you know, and we was in the same grade or whatever. And like, he shoved his tongue down my throat. And I was like, and he just kept doing it day in and day in. And this lasted probably for like 3 days. And I was like, I got to find something else to do, because I'm not liking this, you know. And so I started trying to take a different route, different direction or whatever. But he would just be touching on me and like real aggressive with this whole kissing thing. And it was just like, now that I'm thinking about it, I'm like, hold up. I mean, this been going on a long time.
But if you think about it, think about the girlfriend groups in school, right? It's always the one who may be a little more experienced, and she's like, girl, you ain't lost your virginity yet. And it makes you feel like, you know, you're the singled out one, like, oh, I'm still a virgin, like I'm not the cool kid. And it's like you're putting yourself in situations that you don't need to be in. And it's like a lot of young girls lose their virginity just because of that, because they don't want to be the kid who is a virgin still in high school. And it's like, I remember back in high school when there would be the few girls that's like, oh, we're still a virgin. And everybody would look like, you still a virgin? Like, you know what I mean? Like, and it was like a bad thing. That's an amazing thing, right? I mean, I wish I held out till marriage. You know what I mean? Like, but life happens and, you know, things happen and it is what it is. But I mean, if you think about it in a perspective of like what's really right, what's wrong, what you should be doing and what you shouldn't be doing, man, today's society, it gets younger and younger and younger. And you like, and that's why I think the little boys are able to do more things and get away with it. And then them little boys that got away with pushing the little girl down, groping on the girl, putting their tongue down the throat, them the same ones who snatching the girl up, choking her up around the corner, you know, pulling her out the room, grabbing her by her backpack and dragging her down the street. And everybody's just looking at that like, oh, they've been going together for the last 2 years. It's no big deal. Think about how many situations, if I think about it, I had friends who would get snatched up and it was like, it wasn't a thing because it's like, oh, they go together. But if you think about it, this girl is going through this stuff and nobody's helping her and everybody's seeing it.
Yeah.
And you know what I mean? Like, I mean, we all have teenage kids and it's like, just imagine if we were them now, you know what I mean? Like, we would be in situations where, girl, you ain't drunk, you ain't doing this, you ain't doing that, and it's like, I'm 13. You know.
No, we would be in situations of what in the heck are you doing?
Man, kids
Yeah.
nowadays.
Like one thing I really try to do with my children, as I try to explain to them, and I also, like when I was younger in my 20s, I try to explain to people, because people like, man, they couldn't have been me. I would have whooped his at, whooped his tail and whatnot. But like I said, it doesn't start like that. Your abuser usually gains your trust. It's not just a stranger that you don't like. It's somebody that you end up loving or falling in love with, and they gain your trust. And then once they gain your trust, then not to say that they purposely try to gain your trust and manipulate you. A lot of time pimps do purposely do that. They listen to your story, they listen to your trauma, and they play off of that. But these people that are doing that, a lot of times they have holes that they need to fill from their childhood or way they were treated. So the same way they were trained is the same way they're pretty much training you. So they may have been abused in their younger years or in their household, or psychologically abused, and the same tactic they're using on you. Okay, like, well, if you leave me, I'm gonna kill myself. Things like that, or if you don't do this for me, you don't love me. And like I said, it's always it's usually the person that you have a connection with, you feel that you have a connection with, is the one who starts off manipulating you and start off abusing you. It wasn't When it happened to me, it wasn't just somebody I just so happened to meet one day start putting their hands on me. No, before you know it, they hanging up, then they cussing me out, then they driving past my crib, circling my crib. That's a form of manipulation, because now it's like, oh my God, I gotta stay in the house. I feel nervous if he catch me outside here talking to another boy, even though whether it's sexually or not, it doesn't matter. But then he's gonna do something, he's going to embarrass me, and it starts off that way. Mine eventually led to me becoming meaner. I've been manipulative as well. Before I know it, I started doing like foul stuff as well. And I became physically and verbally and mentally abusive as well, because this is the way I feel like I was trained. And
You're molded into that.
It's a certain term. You start having trauma responses to certain things, like shutting down. Okay, you ain't gonna answer my phone call. Cool. Okay, then I'm gonna stonewall you. I ain't gonna answer yours for double the time. That's a form of manipulation. People talk about, say, get back. No, that's a form of manipulation. And you're not knowing that this person that you stonewalling probably has anxiety in their background from probably being rejected from maybe a parent, maybe a close sibling, and it just becomes like bigger. It comes more of like a rapid cycle.
Yep. And then it triggers them, and then when they get triggered, then they become more abusive.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just a cycle. It's a big cycle, because like you said, I myself also became that angry, mentally, physically, verbally abusive person. And it's like, I think back to the earliest days of, just hearing, abuse and arguments,
Mm-hmm.
not even knowing like this is not healthy. Like, you're not supposed to hear this as a kid. But then I grew up yelling. Like that's one of my issues that I'm still trying to work on, is stop yelling, stop being so quick to fly off the handle. Like, but that's what I learned. At 38, that is my issue. Like, I don't know how to respond correctly to things, and process it. It's like I just snap, and it's like, it's not healthy. That's not a good thing.
Yeah.
But
it most definitely is a learned behavior. And they say 90% of abusers were abused at one point in time in their life. And it's all in how you intake it. When you're in an abusive situation, the tactic usually is you have to form this plan of how I can counteract this, or how it is that I can make it through without, getting physical, or making this person feel like they don't have to do this. And so it becomes a game. And you don't even know that it became a game. You're in survival mode.
Yep.
And being in survival mode, then you start to think about, okay, well, if I do this, then this is the reaction I'm going to get from him. And this is what he's going to do. And so it's kind of like you're running through this maze of how it is that I can get through it, but still be able to live my life and do what I need to do. Or sometimes we even get into a situation where we're so scared we're not even living anymore. We're just there existing.
Let's see what Cheryl said. She said, I remember my mom telling me if a boy kissed me, I would get pregnant. So I was in the 7th grade, and then they were playing catch. The girl kisses the girl at recess. Well, Lamont Scruchin ran up and kissed me. I was scared because I thought I was pregnant, and I beat him with one of those little brown chairs. And then there was a guy named John. He was in our singing group, and he got mad because I wouldn't kiss him, and he slapped me so
hard.
And I ended up fighting him, and I did tell my brother, and y'all. Okay.
Man. I'm telling you, them little relationships, man, I just had another flashback being in the pool. Like, it was like they'll grab you down and try to sit you down on it. Man, I went through some stuff I didn't forget about till just now. Like, hold up. Like, y'all been doing the most for a long time.
So do you guys think that those little relationships kind of set the tone of how it is that we're supposed to allow men to handle us?
For me, I think so.
Not for me, no, because I didn't really have because I was more of the violent one when I was in grade school. So I really didn't have the issues with the little boys like trying to kiss me and then trying to fight me if I didn't react. Mine's really started in high school.
Mine started at grade school.
I think mine started in grade school as well.
I don't necessarily think mine started because of that. I think what happened with me is all the way up until my first abusive relationship, I knew that's not how somebody was going to treat me. I didn't play that. I would cut people off. Like, it was what it was. You raising your voice. I had to flip phone, hang up the phone quick. Had the razor block the number. Bye. Yelling on the phone, everything. But then I met, my first abusive relationship, and it wasn't abusive in the beginning. Of course not. They do everything that you want. They're loving, they're supportive, they're this, they're that. Then they start to isolate. Then they start to, gradually do things. And that's what happened with me. And then I found out I was pregnant. So it was like, I didn't necessarily feel like I was stuck, but, at that time, I'm 18. I felt like I was in love, right? So I'm just like, well, he's just very protective. And, this is me, trying to convince myself that he's not some terrible person, which, he's not a terrible person. People have issues for things that they have. He has his situation. I won't go deep into all that, but it just wasn't who I was supposed to be with. And I learned that 2.5 years in, I'm like, oh, absolutely not. This ain't for me. But I didn't heal myself before jumping into another relationship. So here I go, jump into a second relationship that's abusive, but the abuse was different this time. So I'm like, okay, he's not aggressive, he's not protective and all of this. So I should be in the clear. I'm thinking I gotta, the coast is clear, no more abuse. And it just was a different form of it. And, then I ended up jumping into another relationship after that. And it's just like, until you really heal yourself, you're going to continue to have those same lessons recycled in different ways until you actually get the message. And that's what happened with me. And I know people used to look back and be like, girl, I would have just left. And, girl, this, girl, that. When you are in love with someone and you're trying to make things work and you're naive to the fact that, this is not what you really deserve, you deal with it. And, luckily I was able to get away from those situations, because it's been plenty of times I could not have, I could be rest in peace somewhere. And thank goodness, God had his hands on me and allowed me to still be here. But there are people who are watching us right now who could literally be in a situation that they don't know that this could be fatal for you. They're like, oh, girl, he loved me. He just choked me up every so often. He could choke you and you cannot wake up.
Yep.
It's literally that simple. Or he could push you down, you hit your head, and don't wake up. It's so many easy ways that us women can be hurt by a man that we don't even realize their strength until their hands are around our throat and we passing out.
And I just want to say too, I don't think that it always necessarily is in a situation where you're in love with someone. Sometimes you get into a relationship too fast and it takes off real fast, and they start showing you the evil side to where then you are afraid to leave because you don't know what that looks like and or what could happen to you. I think when I was 15, I got involved with a 23-year-old man, and that was my first abusive relationship. The relationship took off very fast. I was living with my sister at the time, and when I got into the relationship, she just didn't condone it. She wasn't with it. She was like, nope, he's too old. You can't see him. And so I decided that I was going to be disobedient, and I was going to leave, and I was going to go with him. And he was staying with his sister. And there was plenty of nights that he just didn't come back. And I was like, he has me here just chilling, and he's nowhere to be found. And so we started arguing about it, and it started off just little pits and pats of arguments to where one day I was like, you know what, I'm over this. Like, I'm leaving. I'm going back to my sister's house. I don't have to deal with this. Whoever you were sleeping with last night, go back to them. And we were on the phone that particular day, and I didn't know that he was even on his way back. I had called a friend to come and get me. I packed up all of my stuff. I brought it all down to the car. I went back up to get one last box, and he must have came in the front door, and I was using the back door. And as soon as I picked up the box, he said, so you really leaving? And I said, yeah, I'm over it. I'm done. Never had he ever been physical with me, but we weren't together long for me to see that part of him either.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, he just started punching me, and I blacked out, woke up in the hospital, broke my nose in 4 different places, fractured my skull, broke some ribs. And I went to Women of Nations. I stayed there for 30 days and then was discharged. And of course, my mom and dad were nowhere to be found at that time. So when I was discharged to my cousin's house, and he was still out there looking for me. And before I knew it, he came and said, we're moving to Chicago. I will kill you or you're coming with me. And I went to Chicago, and I was in Chicago for 8 months.
Davina, I have a quick question. Did he ever had a history of being a pimp?
I didn't know him that long to know.
Okay.
I had met him, and because he was older, I think he just knew, like, okay, I'm going to take control over this. I think that from the time I met him to the time that I went and was staying with him and his sister, it was probably about 4 months. But to me, as a 15-year-old girl, time has passed by, and it was a long time. No, 5 months is not. 5 months is just that, 5 months. It's a very short time. But at that time, I figured like, oh, I know him. I was young. I was naive. Like, I would have told anybody, if you would have asked me then, like, girl, you don't know this dude from Adam. And I would have been like, I know him. What are you talking about? And I was willing to argue that one down. When my sister was not with it, I was willing to argue her down to the point where I left. And that abuse went on for 3 years straight. He would come, he would burn me with his cigarettes. He would just go out, get high, come back and decide, like, you know what, I'm going to argue with her. I'm going to wake her up out of her sleep. Let's start arguing just to see, like, what is she willing to do? He was bigger than me. I couldn't fight him back. I wasn't going to fight him back. We're in Chicago now. I don't know nothing about this place. We're staying with this person, that person, the next person. Like, I was on plan of how it is that I'm going to get home and how I'm going to get home alive. I never could have imagined that I was going to get out of that situation. And by the grace of God, I did. I was at a hotel sleeping one night, and him and his cousins came in, and I woke up, but I didn't get up. And I laid there and I listened to how they had went out and they killed 3 guys. And one of them was in the hospital. The 4th guy was living, and his cousin was saying, like, I ran out of bullets. I ran out of bullets. When he realized that I was woke because I coughed, he told me to get up and go outside. And so I'm sitting outside. It's in October and I'm freezing. I didn't have a coat. We're in Chicago. It's cold. I just got up and I started running, and I ran to the nearest payphone and I called the police and told them I had information. I was so afraid. They came, they picked me up. That gave me also a lesson on, the police, that sometimes they're not for you. They came, they picked me up. I gave them my story. They gave me a hotel stay and then came to the hotel the next day and told me that I had to go back and get more information.
Wow.
This man is going to kill me and you want me to go back? And as soon as I got back, I told him that I had called my sister and my sister had got me a hotel night and that I was at another hotel. And he wanted me to call her to confirm, which I hadn't talked to her in 8 months. And so I was scared as hell, like, okay, how is she going to go along with this without even ever talking to me? Like, what am I going to say? I didn't know that the marshals had already contacted her. And so she had already kind of knew what it was that I was going through. And so as soon as I called her, she was like, hey, are you okay? Like, how was your night last night? Did you sleep well? And I was like, yeah, I really appreciate that you got me the hotel. I'm calling because Billy wants to know, like, where I was at. And she kind of just went along with it. And he had packed us up. He said, we're leaving. And he wasn't trying to tell me where we were going. And as soon as we got in the car and we pulled off, the police came and pulled us over. And I was like, thank you, Lord Jesus. They arrested all of us, but then they questioned me again with him sitting right next to me in the other room with the door open. So he knew I was the one that told. They all knew. And I said, if he gets out, I'm dead. There's no way I'm going to survive this. This man is going to kill me. I hadn't seen him for like 15 years. And then all of a sudden he just popped up at my house one day. I had already had kids and everything. And I was in the bathroom doing my hair, and my cousin came in and said, some guy named Michi's here for you. And my heart just dropped. Like,
wow.
Today's going to be my last day living. And he told me, I understand. I knew that you told. I don't want to do anything to you. And my cousin then was like, you're not going to do anything. Like, you will die today, boy. Like, we will do this in this house. And he said, you know what? I wish you best of luck. And he left. And I every night thought, like, he's coming back to get me. And he had so much mind control over me because of everything that he had did to me before then, that I didn't feel safe in that house. I didn't no longer want to be there. I didn't feel safe in Minnesota, knowing that he knows that this is where I live. But then it was like a domino effect. Like, my next relationship, I told all about what I had endured in that relationship. And I think that he ran with it. Like, okay, well, since this guy did this to her, I'm going to also do this to her. Because this is a way that I can gain control, because I know that in this area, this is where she's weak.
Yeah.
I want to say something about that, because I do believe men that are emotionally stunted, that's what I'll say. They did not emotionally grow to the potential of what they're supposed to. Mm-hmm. They will take that information and use it against you. And unfortunately, it becomes bad for us because we believe this is someone we entrusted with this information, mm-hmm. trusting them with our heart, all of that. And then they use it to their advantage, and it makes them, feel like they have more power over you. Okay, well, he used to slap you upside your head and keep you away from your friends. Okay, well, I'll let you see your friends, but I won't slap you upside your head. I'll just choke you out.
And girl, he used to do worse to you. You told me about it.
Right, exactly. I don't do all of what he did. I let you see your friends and make you feel like, you're complaining about nothing. Like, you already told me what you've been through. I don't do it like that. And it's like, you're still abusive. Like, mm-hmm. Whichever way you want to say it, like, you're still abusive.
Yep. Yeah. I have a relationship coach, and one of the things she says that if a man asks you about your past, she said, tell them nothing. Don't speak about, tell them nothing. Just say, hey, and then work out. Because she said you don't want them to know where the bar is set. So how they can treat you. Oh, just like you said, Devin, and be like, oh, since you did this, I'm going, since this happened to you, I'm going to do this. For example, not to say this was my situation, but you know, like I said, my history has been more physical abuse. And then I had another relationship was more of psychological. It wasn't verbal, but it was psychological abuse. So now you think like, well, they ain't put their hands on me, they ain't cuss me out, this is not abuse. But still, it was psychological abuse, you know, and you just don't want these other people to know that the bar was so low, and all they had to do was just a little bit above that bar, treat you a little bit above that bar, so they won't be compared as being as bad as your former lover or your former partner.
Or some of them know that you won't fight back, so all I have to do is flex on her a little bit, and she'll bow down to what it is that I want her to do.
I'm fighting back a lot.
Well, a lot of guys think that if you were in a physical abusive relationship, then you're not going to fight back and you're weak. And so all I have to do is flex. And with most women that have been in abusive relationships, that's not the case. So I don't know where men get that from, but no, most women learn after a while that yes, we're going to fight this one out. And
I wasn't in physical abusive relationships because I couldn't fight, because I was a fighter and I used to fight women and people all the time. You know, being from the east side of Detroit, that's how I lived. But then when you really think about it, people don't understand, or what you don't think about is that a woman that is being physically abused by a man typically wants something from that man. It's not like I wanted him to, or allow them to physically abuse me because I couldn't kick him, stump him, do whatever back to him. It was just like, hey, why are you hurting me? Like, I want you to love me, love me, love me. Why are you hurting me? Like, it starts to become a mind thing where it's like, dang, did you really slap me? I could slap you back. But the reality of it is that my tears, I want you to see my tears, and I want you to see my hurt, and that you're hurting me. And then with this hurt and this pain, like, you claim to love me. Why are you not loving me? Why are you hurting me? And so that for me, I can say a lot of it was more along the lines of like, you know, I wanted that love, not to sit there and go toe to toe with you. I didn't want to do that. I wanted you to just change the history of what it was you were doing to me. I wanted you to stop doing that. And so, you know, it's a crazy cycle, because people used to be like, dang, I would have never thought that you would have allowed. And I'm like, hold up. Allowed. It wasn't about allowing. It was more along the lines of what I was trying to get, the love I was seeking from that individual. And that stems from a young place for me, because I sought that out looking for my daddy. So I mean, that's just when I think about it, I think about, you know, why I allowed it. I eventually, I'll bust you upside your head back. But at the same time, it was like, come on, man, where's the love? Like, chasing the love.
You know what? I think we had spoke about this morning, or maybe yesterday. I can't. But like,
no, because you didn't call me this morning.
Okay, my bad. But it's more like I saw that with my parents. I saw that I didn't see like love and compassion with my parents. So my dad more like a blank face, kind of thinking what made him happy. I thought that the reason that was because so my father wouldn't be with my mom, with his other girlfriend. And I remember him talking about, not at that time, he wasn't talking about how nice she was, but I figured that, okay, well, my mom, she doesn't seem to be like very, very nice. So I think that kind of played into my relationships. You know, the more I love on this person, I can love the red flags out of them. You know, the nicer I be, you know, around and trust me, then they'll be nice. It'll be reciprocated, but that's not the case. And that's how a lot of times my relationship started off as, oh, I'm so sorry and I love you. And they're being mean to me. So I'm like, okay, they're just misunderstood. You know, they're not bad people. They're just misunderstood. They just need somebody to constantly tell them that they love them and reassure them. And no, that's not the case. So then when I'm rejected, you know, it's kind of like it messed with me mentally, and also was a bruise to my ego. So now I'm rejected. So I'm thinking like, what's wrong? So they're being meaner. So maybe, okay, I'll be nicer. But one thing I had just saw on Instagram, the guy was like, just because people that be nicer you're not going to get rewarded for being nicer when somebody is mistreating you.
Nope.
And, you keep thinking like, okay, if I be nicer, they give me things, or they'll be nice to me, or they'll reciprocate, or they'll just, take down their guard a little bit. And no, that's not the case. So that's how I went into my relationships. And, and them, a lot of people, they're used to struggle and strife. They're used to conflict. So even if you're trying to love them, they're not used to that. That doesn't make them comfortable arguing with you or getting a negative response out of you. It may be what makes them comfortable. I've dealt with that recently. I'm talking nice. I'm talking about boundaries and this and that. And the person was not satisfied until I was cussing them out. Then they'll calm down as I cut them out. Like they're used to all drama and cussing and fighting and arguing and stuff. So that's one thing today with being an adult. One thing I tell my kids is that you have to know the person's background. Mm-hmm. And I said I wish they would. I was saying to my friend yesterday that I wish they really would push psychology in schools. But one thing she said is that it's not just about pushing psychology. It's about going home and doing the shadow work. So all this stuff that they'll put into these kids, it'll go home and be undone just like that. So me, personally, the personal responsibility I'm taking is I'm really speaking to my kids about, I send them videos and articles about trauma avoidant versus like anxious relationship type, feelings of inadequacy. I just always send this to the children, even though they don't have to be going through nothing, but I'd rather stay above the fray, have them already prepared so then they can start picking up red flags when they do occur,
Mm-hmm. Well, Miss Cheryl says, she said, often look for love from men because of the lack of love not given from or fathers in some cases. And that is called daughter daddy syndrome.
Yep. I can honestly say that wasn't my case. My dad was a good father to me. My dad was a good father. He never disappointed me. He never let me down as a father. I never had that thing where I was sitting on the porch and waiting for my dad to show up. And then, my dad never showed up. My dad always showed up. I could always depend on him 100%. But my thing came more from, I feel that it came more from my mother making me, when she would say certain things when the relationship was not going good with my father. So if I didn't see him just for a day, I'm thinking like, oh my God, my dad's going to leave me. I'm not good enough of a daughter to him, even though he never showed that to me. He never said that to me. But it's whatever I heard my mom said. I'm thinking while my dad is gone for these couple of hours, that I couldn't reach him by phone. You can only reach him by the house phone. I remember it'd be times I called my dad 50 times in a row. Back to back. I'll sit up there for hours just calling because I said, I know he's going to walk in that door. He's going to answer the phone. But in my head, I'm thinking that my dad's leaving me for good. My dad is going to have him a different family. But this is based off of what I would hear my mom's things my mom would say. And not to say that she was purposely trying to manipulate me. I don't know. But this is what I was thinking. So I built this this type of anxiety that, let's say, for example, if I call somebody or call a man and he'll call me for hours or don't text me back for hours, I'm thinking I did something wrong. Even though that just could be their way of communicating. There's over 7 billion people in this world. Everybody's going to communicate differently. But in my head, I'm thinking like he done moved on to somebody else, probably already started a new family in the matter of 2 days, and he hates me. He's trying to play me. He's trying to play in my face right now, trying to keep some type of attachment to me. And then I'm ready to fight by the time I didn't spoke to him, because all this self-sabotaging and all this work and all these scenarios I've been creating in my head. So now I'm in survival mode. I'm ready to fight. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna get you before you get me. A matter of fact, I know what you're doing mentally, and here I am, fight. So it's like I said, it's not, domestic abuse ain't just about physical, it's psychological. And then before I may be stonewalling, and they may have issues. And like to me saying, it's a cycle.
That it is.
Yeah, but that's because that's one of your triggers. But I think if a person doesn't know that that's a trigger for you, then they wouldn't even know that they done set you off. You know what I mean? Like, I just ain't talked to you in 2 days. I didn't know it was a big deal. And it's a whole thing now.
But you got to know what's your own trigger. Though. A lot of us don't know our own trigger. We just know that we mad, but we don't know where to pinpoint. A lot of times, people, sometimes you can't get this type of with your friends. You really, a lot of times, do need a professional person who can help you peel back these layers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, I agree with that.
Because maybe trigger. I just thought that I was right. They were wrong. They supposed to be calling me this, that, reassuring me because this is the right way. This is what I'm thinking. The hell, what you thinking? I'm thinking that this is the right way, but no, it wasn't. There's really was no right or wrong. Like you said, you have to know your trigger. A lot of people don't know their trigger. They know that they're mad at, but they just can't point to exactly why.
Mm-hmm. What I would say is something that, my parents were married until I was 14. And what my trigger was when they got divorced, I felt like he divorced me too. Because I had a best friend that I would watch basketball with. He was at home every day. I was closer to my dad at that time than my mom. And anybody that knows me knows I'm close to my mom. So to know that I was closer to my dad at some point, it just makes you think of, now here goes this 14-year-old girl who is starting to, date boys. And, now you're starting to, you go through puberty, your body is changing, all of these things. And it's like, now I'm trying to look for this supplemental love that I was getting every day. And now I'm just, finding people that aren't even worth my time, but it's somebody who's giving me attention. Yep. And, I think that happens a lot is, us as women, we love attention, right? So sometimes we will allow attention from people that we don't need to be spending no time with. But we give them the time because it's, they saying everything we want to hear, doing everything we want them to do. And then we get in that trap. And, once you're in that trap, it's like, it's hard to get out sometimes, unless you are a person who you're able to, turn your emotions off and on when you can. Everybody's not like that though. And I think that's what happened with me with dating was just, I became so infatuated with people easily because they were doing everything I wanted. Like, so when I became in abusive relationships, these weren't terrible people when I first met them. Mm-hmm. People always look at me like, girl, what was you with him for so long for? Like, because everything other than him being abusive was everything I needed. They were financially there. They were there for me to talk to them when I needed to talk to them. When I was hurting, they were able to, console me and comfort me and everything else. But then they had that evil part to them where they were, this abusive person. And it's like mentally, I would always think, well, oh, he went through this as a young kid. So I was excusing it. He didn't have his dad when he grew up. So let me just, allow him to heal and, like you said, love the red flags out of him. I thought I could, change the world. My love is strong enough to change this man. Girl, absolutely not.
Well, and a lot of abusers also learn the patterns that we give. So they know like, okay, I did this and now it took me all of 4 days to wear her down to take me back and for everything to seem like it's okay. Or it took me 10 days to turn around what I'd done bad to her to make her feel like she did it actually to me. They learn those behaviors and they prey on that of I can do this and this is how long it's going to take for me to win her back over.
Yep. And that was the way I got. It was always a gift. Mm-hmm. It was always a nice dinner or, a movie or something, extravagant that happened that, and that is crazy because as I grew up, my dad, he would always bring me something home from work because he worked at Bloomingdale's. So every day I was getting something. So that was like my love language was gifts, receiving gifts. So when people realize like, oh, I can get her by, buying her love, they had me. So I ended up, dealing with certain types of people because of that. Like, oh, he got a little bit more money and, he can do this and he can do that. But, he just chokes me up every so often. Like, no, that's not cool. Miss Cheryl said, yes, my dad was a great man and my mom as well. But my dad was emotionally detached. He was stern, firm, and very, very strict. He was military and wasn't a hugger. He didn't say I love you, but he showed his love. So I think that is what sent me searching. Yeah. Yeah. It's always different types of ways. I mean, oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was about to say, Devin, it's funny that you said that your love language was gifts because, you know, that's how your dad, that's what made you comfortable when your dad came and gave you gifts. So then when these guys did whatever they did and they gave you gifts, then it settled you and made you more comfortable, because it's like mine was, mine is touch. And my dad, he's always comfort me, touch me, rub me. So what would get me back into these, get me back with these men, they'll touch me, they'll say they're sorry, look me deep in my eyes, rub on me. That will draw me in. Gifts never really drove me. And that's crazy though, that you can link that to your childhood, because I always wonder where like the, where the love language may have stemmed from.
Same. I can say the same. My dad was in the home until I was 4. And I can say that, my mom was in school, so I spent a lot of time with him. And I'm talking about my dad would warm my towel up and get me out the bathtub and, make sure that everything was laid out for me. I'd sit in the bed with my daddy and eat frosting out the container and, walk me to the school bus and put me on the school bus. And then one day it was just gone. And then my brother was conceived, and then, he was over there. And when I think about it, like those relationships, it was always like, I don't like roses. Anybody that knows me knows I'm getting better with it, but I don't like roses, because if you buy me gifts, they're very meaningless to me. I'm not able to be bought, but rub my eyebrows or grab my face or play my hair or just, whatever. And I'm sorry. And I mean to hurt you. And, I don't want to hurt you. My mom used to whoop me and apologize when she'd be like, I'm sorry, mama, sorry, but you shouldn't have been doing this and you shouldn't have been doing that. And my grandma, same thing. I would get whoopings and people would apologize. And so I got used to that as a child. Like, okay, you whooping me verbally, physically, mentally. All it's gonna take is for you to say I'm sorry, and it's gonna be better to rub on me. And it's very interesting. I feel like I'm learning something in this podcast. I feel like I'm learning a lot about myself from you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, my love language changed after all the trauma. I'm more of being able to, oh, we lost her. There she go. I like being able to communicate. That is my love language. Being able to talk about anything and get lost in your words with someone, and not feeling judged. That's big for me. Like, I don't know. I guess that's how Reggie got me, and I ain't went nowhere, because me and him can talk about everything under the sun and laugh like we are just some little kids at a playground. And that is really heartfelt to me, because when somebody really listens and then they're responding and having conversations with things that you have told them months and years ago, I mean, that gets me. Like, you remember that? You know what I mean? Like, that's important to me, because I think, somebody can easily spend some money on you, which is great. Everybody likes gifts. There's nothing wrong with that. But how long did it really take you to get that gift? Did you really put thought into it, or you just heard me say, I wanted a new purse and you bought me a purse? You know what I mean? Like, but when somebody's actually having a conversation with you and giving you feedback and you're learning from this person, that's big for me. Like, if I can't learn from a man now in my age, what are we doing? Like,
so would it be fair to say that falls under quality time?
Oh, absolutely. Okay. Yes.
I think quality time and affirmation.
Where's the affirmation?
Mm-hmm. I think as long as we all know.
You said, what's the affirmation?
Oh, I thought she said words of affirmation.
Words of affirmation.
Oh, I thought you said what?
I heard her right.
So somebody was to tell you like, oh my God, Davina, like you have a very pretty sweater. I love it. Really compliments you. That like really makes you warm and fuzzy.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
So just compliments all the time and words of affirmation. Somebody just letting you know that they actually heard you. A lot of times, a lot of us, that's all we really want is to be heard.
Yeah.
Like, especially when we're going through something or we're having a hard day, for you to come in and say, oh my God, Davina, I'm having a bad day. And I say, oh, well, Sebald, tell me all about it. And I can't tell you anything that you said. Makes you feel, like you're this big. But if I can go ahead and I can respond back and I can follow along in that conversation, lets you know that I was interested and that what you had to say was important. And so to give you that affirmation that I was present, that you were heard.
Yeah.
And to go from there, like that's a lot. I'm not one of words of affirmation. I am physical touch as well.
Yeah, you got to touch me, sure.
But I'm physical touch, and I don't know if it's because it's a double-sided sword. My family is very huggy. They're from down south, and so they don't shake hands, they hug. But it was a lack of that I also got when I was younger. I was always seen and not heard. And so it has always just been something that I've longed for and that I always felt like I needed because I didn't get enough of it.
Yeah.
You know, what's crazy is I ain't never been touched like I'm touched by my current husband. So like the touch thing, that's how I know, because I don't desire. I never felt the spark of what I feel when that man touches me. And it's not just physically, well, though physically I love the physical, but I have this connecting. It's like when you're touching my soul. When we talk like we be yelling at each other, we be playing, but we talk. That's my best friend. So it's like no matter how I feel about, I mean, yeah, I get mad, and he gets mad, but then we at the same time we get silly. When we, in love, we in love. It's just, but he's touching my soul. Like the whole touch aspect is deeper than the physical, but that physical touch thing really came from my childhood just because I was always catered to as a child in that way. So it makes a lot of sense.
You think yours is more or yours is more acts of service?
Yeah, that too. But see, that's kind of weird because like I don't really like nobody doing too much for me either.
Well, it doesn't have to be the only one. It could be more.
There's a many of them. I think we get lost in one, forgetting the fact that we have many that that exist amongst us.
Yeah.
So, speaking of which, when are you taking me to Baltimore?
When you want to go?
We'll talk about it.
Okay.
I drove by it today. I was like, ooh, I ain't been there.
Look, for the guy, we get there, I'm going to lock hands with you, talk with you.
As long as I can get some lobster mac, I'm good.
I want some too, then.
Right? Now we all got to go.
To date.
But I think is now that like try to get in touch with ourselves, if we are children or like younger siblings or even like adults and older adults and stuff, it's about not looking for somebody to fill those gaps and those holes from your childhood, because a lot of times when you do that, you're like I can't remember if it's Davina or Devin, you're going back and you're getting the wrong people to do it. So it's about really, really getting to know yourself, doing the shadow work.
Yeah.
And then also know what type of people that you're dealing with. And it's not necessarily that those other people are bad. You just have different styles of communicating. But the main thing is set your boundaries down. Like you don't have to accept this because they're this way. Set your boundaries. And for real, like I say about a year ago, I had told my son, I had got to the point, I said, if you ever have to get to a point that you have to verbally abuse somebody that you love, or you have to put your hands on them, be done. Because what's going to happen is there's going to be casualties of war. Hurt people, and that hurt that they got, they're going to put onto somebody else. And the thing is, and it's going to come back to you eventually, because you're going to think about the stuff that you've done. And I just told him that out of the blue, because I had gotten into an argument with somebody. I had cussed them out. But at this particular point in time, it used to make me feel empowered, because I used to be like verbally abused as a child. So I feel like my power was being taken away from me. So in order for me to do it to somebody else, it made me feel empowered. But at that time when I didn't, it made me feel empowered. But I still stood stand on what I said when I said then. But it kind of hurt me, because I'm like, I really love this person, but I shouldn't have to go there, because now, I could have, once the words leave your mouth, you can't take it back.
Yeah.
I don't, now being like an older adult, I don't want them to ever think that I hate them, that I think of them less than. I just rather just move on or be done, versus like verbally abusing them or emotionally abusing them. So, we have to talk more with our people. And also we have to, also our children are like sponges. And it has to start young, because you would hate them to have all this trauma, even end up in jail and dead, and it could have been prevented just by being educated.
And stop having seat fillers. That's what I think of when, you just think of somebody just being with somebody just because.
Yeah.
It's just a seat filler.
Yeah.
Like, you don't love
Stop
him.
being with somebody just because you don't want nobody else to benefit from what you think you benefiting from, or what you think you have, because you're scared that somebody else is going to step in some shoes that you ain't even in. Stop doing that.
Benefits. Yep.
Yeah.
And that's one thing I had to realize is, like you said, it's not necessarily that this person is a bad person. Our love is just different. Like, I had to leave my last relationship, and I said, it's not that he doesn't love me. He loves me to the ability of what he knows how to love me. And it's not what I need. And that's how I had to realize, like, just because somebody loves you doesn't mean it's what you need. And once you realize what you need, if that person's not giving you what you need to walk away. Everybody.
Part of love is to be able to do just that, is to be able to walk away from a situation. You should be able to love somebody to the point where that by us staying together is toxic, it's not working. And so seeing as that you're not strong enough to be able to leave me, I'm going to be the stronger one.
I give my ex-husband credit for that. He, though he wasn't trying to leave me and I actually left him, the letter that he wrote me, I think I've spoken on many times, but the letter that he wrote me, I gained a different understanding from that letter, because I found it for the first time after 5 years this year. And that letter, he said one thing in that letter that sticks out to me and I hear it every single time I think about abuse or anything like that I endured. I am freeing you from this torment of me. And I give him credit for being able to realize his role in the things that he's done. And that's some growth in me, because about a year ago, I wasn't giving him credit for nothing. But I give him credit for that. I respect that, because you were freeing me. Though you were hoping that we could work through it and move past it, you're still giving me the opportunity to go on into my life and the things that I'm, going through, or my future, moving on from the past of you. It gives me a sense of peace knowing that somebody realized that they were able to, I didn't deserve what they were putting upon me. Like, to know that this person, though they were doing all these things to me, they knew that I didn't deserve being tormented the way that they tormented me. And so I'm freeing you of this torment. And that, it gives me, he wasn't for me, but it doesn't necessarily mean that he was terrible, and he was able to actually see that he wasn't for me. And so I do, I give him credit, and I commend him for that. So.
Yeah.
Michelle said, leave them situationships alone. She said he took accountability. We got to an hour quick. If someone is watching this live or this recording later, what would be one takeaway each of y'all would like them to know whether it's someone who is currently in a relationship that maybe it's not physically, but could be mentally, financially, any type of abusive relationship, or someone who is watching this that may potentially one day be in one. What would that takeaway be for them?
It's a lot that you said about that. A course is very, is very common to say, just leave, get out. Honestly, I tell people this: you'll know when you are tired. You know when you are tired. You know you are tired. It gets to you. Just, man, it's hard. It's hard because you know when you are tired. But especially if you have children, abuse is just not affecting you. It's going to affect your children. And the thing is, a lot of people say that, but they don't tell you the how. One, it's pulling you mentally away from things you could be doing. Life is about progress, and you can't progress by living every day like it's Groundhog's Day. What they said, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. So don't think that you're going to sit here and stay in the same abusive relationship and keep working in the same way and things are going to change. No, things are going to change because people want to change. But it's not only taken away from you. Don't do it just for yourself. You have to do it for yourself because number one rule in life is self-preservation. But there are other people that are counting on you, your kids. I cannot tell you the stuff that I've went through, and then me being in depression, it took me away from the things that I love and my children and my household for 7 years. I mentally blocked everything out. And instead of, I went to therapy, but I wasn't doing the shadow work. So with me not doing the shadow work, being in situationships, I may have covered, I'm covered with these different vices. I'm, taking these different vices, trying to fill these holes. But the thing is, I needed to heal. And what I'll tell you this: if you don't take anything else, take this from it. You can't go above it, you can't go under, you can't go around it. You got to go through it. You got to go through it. Not only go through it, you got to do the shadow work. So you got to really focus on self-love. As cliche as it sounds, you have to figure out what it is that you love about yourself, because what you see in these people, what you see in these abusers, is a reflection of what's in you. And once you find that inside of you, you will know what these abusers are doing to you. You cannot take it personal because it usually goes back to their childhood.
I would say that my takeaway would be that us as people, we need to start doing better by not only each other, but by ourselves. If you see something, say something. If you're going through, say something. We all need to stop feeling like somebody's going to think of me in a certain situation or a certain type of way, or, I'm going to be judged on this. Part of making it through this is to be able to talk about it. When we talk about it, we start to be able to come up with our solutions of how it is that we're going to, deal with it or get out of it, whatever it is. But we need to start using our voices. We have a voice for a reason, and that's to speak on what it is that we either are going through or somebody that's going through something. If you're my friend and I know that you're going through something, I'm going to say something. It needs to happen. Sometimes when we're standing in the mix of it, we don't even realize that that's what it is. And so a lot of us women are out here and we're going through emotional, mental abuse and don't even know that we're going through that. And before we know it, at a click of a finger, it's physical. Physical comes faster than anything. It's the lightning strike of it. And so if we are going through something, we need to be able to speak on it so that we could at least try to start an action plan of what it is that we need to be doing in our life. If you're alone and you're not speaking on it, nobody knows what it is that you're going through. So how can somebody help you if you're not helping yourself?
Yep.
We need to Stop rationalizing. And I say this all the time, but it's the reality. You need to stop rationalizing mistreatment and bad behavior and just assuming that because a person is not hitting you, they're not abusing you. There are people out here that are being abused by way of actions of their partners. And I'm speaking solely on partners right now. I can say partners, friendships, parents, whatever. I'm not speaking on that. I'm speaking right now solely on your partnerships and your relationships. When you are involved with a person and you are dealing with another human being, and that human being is verbally saying things to you or doing things to you or ignoring you or not communicating with you or just just doing the most when it comes down to how they treat you, and it's not loving and it's not giving you a feeling that's a good feeling when because you know when a person is not treating you right verbally and mentally, but sometimes people talk themselves out of it because anything is better than what they've had before. Mm-hmm. And so if you've had something before that has hurt you, truly, truly hurt you, you'll endure something that you know is not good for you. And I just want people to stop rationalizing bad behavior and being mistreated just to pacify themselves because it's not what it once felt like before. You know what to do. Stop rationalizing that. Mm-hmm. And that's it.
I like y'all's takeaways. What I will say is that feeling you have inside when you know something ain't right, trust it. When somebody shows you who they are, believe them. Stop seeing people for who you think they will be one day. If I would have gotten that advice 19 years ago, I probably would be in a different, position doing something completely different. But I will say that stop giving people, like Eb said, the benefit of the doubt. When somebody shows you that ugly face they have, remember that ugly face.
Mask.
Remember it. Mm-hmm. Yes, this was good.
Yes.
We can end here, y'all. We could keep going, but I mean, we could always bring you back another time with a different topic. You want to come back a different time?
Of course, definitely.
Okay.
Thank you.
And let me just say what Miss Cheryl said, since she commented here. She said, "This was good, ladies, and I thank God for you all thinking of not just yourselves, but of others that are still bound by this disease of abuse. And I pray God continued blessing be upon each of them. God bless you all." And she said, "Yes, amen. Say something." And she said, "Yes, if it don't feel right, it ain't right." Yeah. But yes, we thank all of y'all for watching tonight. If you're watching this live, we appreciate y'all. If y'all watching the recording later, we appreciate y'all as well. We're going to have so many more new topics for November. We're going to bring C-Ball back for another topic. We'll get her on here one of these days. But we thank y'all. And y'all want to say anything else before we go?
No.
Yeah.
Okay. Miss Cheryl said, "Have a blessed night, y'all. Love y'all.
Have a blessed night too. Love you too.
Bye.
Good night."
Good night.